What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy and I'm coming at you with an action figure review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Hasbro The Black Series Luke Skywalker from Episode 4 A New Hope. I think this figure was a long overdue redo of this version of Luke Skywalker. The previous iteration of this character from this line is definitely a rough one at best, and while he did get a photoreal update a couple years ago, it was definitely still warranted to get a new figure, so Hasbro went around and finally got to doing a new Farm Boy Luke, as the community calls him. I picked this figure up on a pre-order through Big Bad Toy Store. I've been sitting on it for a good while now, but, you know, I do most of my action figure orders and pre-orders through Big Bad Toy Store. I think they're a great US-based service, and I love supporting them in their business. As far as this release goes, this was a mainline release for technically 2025, although I know people were starting to find these at the end of 2024. This guy comes in the standard packaging for the Black Series right now. You have your Black Series logo up top, a nice big plastic window showing you the figure and his accessories. Over here you have in vertical text the name of the character, as well as that he is number 9 for the A New Hope subline. Down at the bottom in this orange banner here, which is the color for that subline, you have the name of the movie, as well as at the bottom some of your logos and legalese. On this side of the box, you do have your mural art here. Now, I think this mural art was done really well. This definitely captures Luke Skywalker from this movie in Mark Hamill's younger days playing Luke Skywalker. I really like the way this one turned out. You do, of course, have your name of the character at the bottom, and then on the back of the box, you have a lot of the same stuff we saw on the other sides. Black Series logo, you have that mural art we saw on the side of the box, blown up a bit, character's name, and of course a bio in about 1,000 different languages. This bio reads, Luke Skywalker was a Tatooine farm boy who rose from humble beginnings to become one of the greatest Jedi the galaxy has ever known. And again, they just reiterate he's number 9 for the A New Hope subline. You have a lot of your legalese down here, guys. Please don't feed Luke Skywalker to your babies. On this side of the box, you have just some of that wraparound window and your Black Series logo again. At the bottom, even more legalese, and at the top, nothing. That about wraps it up for the packaging on this figure, so let's get him opened and we'll check it out. Alright guys, here's Luke Skywalker out of the box. Before we take a look at the figure, as always, let's take a look at the 2 accessories he comes with. The first one being his, I guess I'll call them the macro binoculars. These are really fun. I think this is a great accessory to add for Luke, as it's not an accessory that's very commonly added for this version of the character. I really like all the paint applications here. I think that, especially this being a unique accessory in the line, it's great that they added so much sculpted detail and paint application here. It's on a black sculpt with some silver, and then you can see there is a little hole for a peg on the belt that you can actually attach this to the belt. I think that's a great touch, and again, just a small little detail, a great extra accessory for this character. And then of course, what would Luke Skywalker be without the Skywalker lightsaber? This is originally Anakin's lightsaber from the prequel trilogy that Obi-Wan takes in Revenge of the Sith. This is a really nice sculpt here. I love the silver. You got some nice gold, some red, and some black for the grips here. The Graflex lightsaber. Everyone knows this is the Graflex lightsaber. And then you have a really nice deep blue lightsaber blade. I think when they do these deeper colors, it looks really nice on the shelf, and it really helps the lightsabers pop when they're ignited. The lightsaber blade does, of course, remove from the hilt. It's got a very deep peg. I'm not used to seeing a peg in the lightsaber blade that deep, but it's honestly nice. It's going to make for a nice secure connection and hopefully stop the saber from breaking. There is a little bit of a divot in the base of the blade sculpt there, so that there is technically a right way to reattach it to the hilt. And now let's take a look at Luke Skywalker here. So with this figure, I'm sure you've heard it by now. There's a lot of talk about the face. I am not a fan of the likeness here. I don't think that this looks like Mark Hamill at all. And I think honestly what's killing me most about this one is the mouth. I think he's got this weird like partially open mouth, and I think that's what's really killing me on the likeness here. I think they got the chin down. I think they got the nose right. I think the shape of the face is correct, but I think it's just something about the eyes just look really big and really dead. Like there's no expression on that face whatsoever. It's like a mugshot, and it looks uncanny valley. It does not look like Mark Hamill Luke Skywalker to me. But you know, I'm not gonna keep harping on it too much because it's been said. Every reviewer that's reviewed this figure has said that, and I think that Hasbro definitely got the point that they did not hit the nail on the head on this likeness. So, moving on. Something that I did notice here is that this little pouch on the belt is loose, comes right out. You can hook it over the belt here with this little gap in the back, and does come off. So that's really interesting. We'll set that off to the side so we don't lose it. The hair is done really nicely. I gotta give him props for the hair. I think the shape of the sculpting is done nicely. I think the bangs look a little weird, but I think everything in the back looks great. And they've got a really nice dark wash on the hair. This is something I've been wanting them to do more with figures, and they did exactly that with this one. I'm very happy that we got some dark wash on the hair here. Aside from that, this is a very basic look for Luke Skywalker. It's his farm boy appearance. The first appearance we see Luke Skywalker in when Star Wars first came out. So it's a very basic look. I like what they've done with the belt here. The belt looks great. I like how they've painted the hook for either the lightsaber or the binoculars. There is also just some pouches that are sculpted on there. And then there is this little piece here that's done in some nice paint application with some darker silver and some black. And again, some nice detail on the belt buckle. The belt buckle's got a lot of detail on it, and I really like that. The kind of like the brushing effect almost. It looks really nice. The top of the tunic here is a rubbery overlay. It's very baggy towards the center here, and it's supposed to make it so that, you know, you have just a bare chest underneath, just like in the movie, and it kind of avoids them having to paint that, which is great. And then something else that I really have to bring attention to here is the boots and the wrappings here. Look at all that wash on these boots. That is great. This is another thing that I've been wanting them to do more of, is give some weathering down towards the boots. When a lot of these characters are, you know, battle-hardened characters, or, you know, they're in a dirty environment, they have clean boots, and that, you know, kind of takes you out of it when you're opening the figure. This is the perfect amount of weathering on these boots. Nothing too heavy, nothing too much. I think it's great, though, that it's a detail that they added on this figure, because otherwise, he's very clean, and that's fine, because, you know, in the movie, he doesn't have too much dirt and grime on his shirt and everything. So I do appreciate that they at least paid attention and gave some extra love to the boots here. But again, aside from that, a very basic Black Series figure as far as the painted and sculpted detail goes, because the look of the character is very basic. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cover the articulation on Luke here. So I know that a lot of people, from what I've heard, a lot of my friends have been praising this figure for the articulation. So he's got this barbell neck here. So he's got a ball joint at the top of the neck, and he's got a ball joint at the bottom of the neck as well. So you can get all kinds of range out of that head. You can get some good down there and a little bit of up, nothing crazy. You're gonna catch the hair sculpt. You want to kind of put that over the collar here, or else it's gonna ride up, and it actually helps him look up a lot more. You can get some really good tilt out of that, as well as obviously your right and left. He does have some butterfly joints that are hidden underneath this overlay, and that's gonna actually have some really nice range in spite of the overlay. He has a hinge and swivel at the shoulders. The hinge gets you to about 90 degrees, maybe just shy of that, and of course the swivel is going to get you a full 360 degrees. He's got some really deep cut single jointed elbows. Those have a 90-degree bend, which is great, and there is also a swivel at the top of the elbow there. And then the forearms are pretty interesting too. So there is almost like a ball joint, kind of where the forearm is its own sculpt. So you'll see the sleeves are hollow here, and about halfway up the forearm is its own sculpt, and so that has its own ball joint. And then you also have a vertical hinge and swivel at the right wrist. He does have a trigger finger there. You can see the swivel and the hinge. And then on the left wrist, he has another vertical hinge and swivel, and again, I can feel that extra movement from that forearm. It's probably going to help us a lot with these baggy sleeves when we're posing the lightsaber around. I think that might be the idea there. Now we're going to take a look at the midsection, which has a ball joint right at the waist, and that's going to give you some really, really good range. I'm very happy about that, because I was a little worried with the baggy overlay. And then the bottom of the shirt here is also a rubbery piece, so you are going to be able to move the hip joints at the legs, and the bottom of the tunic will kind of move itself out of the way there. They did do away with the cut for the thigh swivel on this figure. However, they've modified the hip joints to kind of emulate the same movement. This one doesn't give you a ton of range, but it is what it is. Down here, you got some deep cut single jointed knees. They're going to get you about 90 degrees of bend, which is pretty standard for Black Series, and you do have a swivel at the top of the knee as well. And then of course down at the ankles, you get your Black Series classic, the forward-facing pin for rocker, a little bit of forward, maybe, nothing really much as far as forward goes, and some good back. So overall, pretty standard articulation for what you can expect from the Black Series in 2025. Nothing really crazy spectacular, although I am a big fan of the forearms here. I think that's a really cool and really neat thing that they've done here and tried out. So let's get his accessories in hand and we'll pose them up. So the first thing I want to do here is just take a look at the binoculars. So I'm assuming you would just hook them on. There the hole is here. And here's what the binoculars look like hooked on the belt. That looks really nice, and they sit there pretty securely. They're not going to fall off when you shake the figure around, which is always great. These binoculars are very bulky, however, so it's probably going to be pretty difficult for us to get them actually in his hands. Although the fingers are very malleable, so I was able to do that pretty easily, and you can get Luke to, at least with one hand, look into the binoculars here, and you can kind of emulate that look that he's looking out of them. So I'd say that's a pretty good pose right there. But of course, you can also use this hook for the lightsaber, and the lightsaber sits really nicely on the front of the belt and looks very striking. And then also, that one does not pass the shake test, but I mean, just be wary of that. However, we are going to be posing Luke with lightsaber in hand, so I'm going to give him his lightsaber, and that has a pretty secure grip in the hand, even after we just stretched out the hand to hold the macro binoculars there. It looks really nice, and again, passes the shake test for sure. We'll attach this pouch back to the back of the belt here, and we'll just kind of pose him up in a basic little pose here. This looks pretty nice. Again, I mean, other than the face looking a little off, I think the figure definitely presents well. Here's your basic samurai low ready stance. He gets the lightsaber into two hands very nicely. We're going to try something a little more dynamic now. Yeah, here's a really good one here. He's got the lightsaber in two hands. Those butterfly joints work really well, and we're able to get a nice blocking stance here. And here we've got, of course, a one-legged pose, saber back a little bit. This is kind of emulating a little bit more of like a Battlefront 2 style, where this is one of my favorite appearances to play as is Luke Skywalker in that game. That was a big reason I ended up picking up this figure. But again, pretty good. It's great that this was very easy for me to get this pose here. He's got a great center of gravity. And that about wraps it up for Luke Skywalker. This one is definitely, I would say, a little bit underwhelming to me, to be honest, because between the really rough likeness on the face, and then I actually was having a really hard time getting him into some more lower dynamic posing, because they did away with the thigh swivel, and in this particular case, it really hinders that leg articulation there. I think that if Hasbro is going to go for switching to those modified hip joints, I think they need to really carve out more on the insides of those hips to really give you some more range in and out on those legs, especially because this character has a tunic that's covering that area. I feel like it would be okay if it was gappy anyway, because you wouldn't see it. Just my personal thoughts on the figure. Again, it's a great Luke Skywalker figure, and it's definitely 10 times better than the previous Luke Skywalker figure of this particular appearance. However, just for me personally, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by it. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you are an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this review early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and more awesome benefits, make sure to check out the Patreon, linked in the description below. And if you're a fan of the reviews and you just want to see the reviews and you want to support the channel still, you can check out my Rancor Battalion channel membership for just 99 cents a month. Gives you access to all of my reviews early and access to voting on what I review next. And finally, make sure to check out the links to my Discord and all of my social media as well. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off all units. Fire at will. 1, 2, pick a target. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit. Where's the reinforcements?